Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to the 150th Annual General Meeting of the Wine Society. On the one hand, just another year, just another AGM, but what a wonderful milestone for the Society. Our founders founded us as a special organisation for wine lovers to try the best international wines at the fairest prices, and they established us as a mutual. And that underlying principle and the values of mutuality remain today the bedrock on which the Society exists. 1.5 centuries of sourcing wines from members through good times and not so good times, but continually creating extraordinarily deep, personal and long-lasting relationships with the very best growers and suppliers all over the world and bringing their outstanding wines to our members. A very special organisation. And it's wonderful to see so many members attending the meeting. There are over 700 so far today. And I've been asked to say to those in the hall that no fire alarms are planned this evening, and in the event of an emergency, the Barbican hosts and staff will lead everyone to the appropriate assembly points. I hope that most of you do know the four of us up here, but just in case, I'm Alan Black, the chair of the Society, and next to me is Steve Finlan, our chief executive, Emily Roskilly, our chief financial officer, and Pierre Mansour, our director of wine. And the rest of the committee are sitting in the hall with you, hopefully engaging with those around them so that you know who to talk to and ask questions of later. And I'm going to ask them to stand up now so that you can see exactly where they are. And for the benefit of those online, their photographs are appearing on screen. If you could stand up now, committee. Thank you all. Thank you. I'm going to begin by saying a few words about the last financial year, and then this year, and then about our plans for the future. Then move to questions, and then to the formal resolutions. And following that, and before the tasting, Pierre will say a few words. Last year continued to see high inflation, a very high duty increase, and every member suffering a cost of living challenge. As you know, and demonstrating the partnership between the Society and its members, we felt that we should continue to hold prices as much as possible, and we managed to do that extraordinarily well. In return for that, we asked members to support us by buying more wine from us than elsewhere, not increasing your consumption, just spending more of your wine wallet with us. By buying more at lower margins, members allow us to continue to keep prices as low as possible. A wonderful virtuous circle. As they usually do, members responded, showing the emotional tie between the Society and its members. And we hope they will continue to do so this year and for the future. As a result, although the second half of the year saw a significant drop in margin, as we held prices in the face of the extremely serious cost increases, this was partly compensated for by the increase in volume as members bought more. I'm pleased to say, therefore, that in very challenging retail conditions where others were clearly having difficulties, we had a very good year with a record-breaking December and Christmas. And our message of low everyday pricing rather than high-low pricing and discounting is clearly resonating with members. Last year's headline numbers, the most important things first, wine and events. During last year, we offered some 5,600 wines from 27 countries, made 16 en primeur and 66 first release offers, and released 47 museum release wines. Altogether, we sold over 11 million bottles of wine. Some 18,500 members, more than ever before, attended Society tastings, either at one or more of the 106 in-person events or the 32 online events. And members were joined by winemakers from 217 wineries from 19 winemaking regions and countries. This year, of course, we're having a plethora of tastings, lunches, dinners, and other events to celebrate our 150th. All told, there will be 160 events in 55 different towns and cities. And for the exhibition era weekends in London, Bristol, Manchester, and Edinburgh, they comprise multiple events from the Friday evening to Sunday lunchtime. The events are proving exceptionally successful and have received almost universally favourable comments from members and growers alike. The membership. Our goal is not maximising profit. It's maximising member satisfaction and experience. That is the most important indicator of our success. And I'm pleased to say that member satisfaction during the year was consistently at an all-time record high. And as we look ahead, we must ensure that the Society has a strong and stable membership to buy sufficient wine to cover our costs and enable us to make continuing improvements in service and infrastructure. That means, since all our members reduce their spending over time, continually attracting new members. And last year, happily saw a 3% growth in new members. Our finances, revenues and sales were up slightly, 1% on the previous year, and we ended the year with gross revenues from members of just over £149 million. Sales of wine bought and available for delivery to members in the year were £121.6 million. Sales of en primeur and first release wines bought in previous years but becoming available for delivery to members last year, which is when we must account for them, were £18.3 million. I should say as an aside that en primeur and first release wines actually sold to members last year, but which won't be available for delivery until later years, were very strong, up 28% from the previous year. And the benefit of those sales will be in following year's accounts when the wines become available for delivery to members. The balance of revenues from members comes from reserves rental, £2.6 million, amounts paid by members on wines coming out of in-bond reserves, and tastings and events. Although cases of regular wines per member were down 10%, the number of buyers buying from the Society in the year increased by just over 1% to 178,000, and the average case spend increased by some 6.6%. We ended the year, therefore, with a cash balance of £15.4 million, although that included an amount of £1.8 million for duty, which was due to be and was paid within days of the new financial year. And overall, a net profit or surplus of £1.7 million. The balance sheet remains strong and our cash position healthy. So how is this year looking? It looks as if it's going reasonably well, and members are clearly recognising the growing gap in value between us and others. We keep a running comparison of a basket of equivalent wines from key competitors, measured against, where applicable, their discounted prices. And last year, as it invariably is, our basket was significantly cheaper, notwithstanding some of our competitors' heavy discounting. It's always worth comparing the actual cost of a bottle reaching your home between the Society and others, rather than being influenced by the headline discount being offered, which often reflects a discount from a higher price and may not take into account delivery charges, etc. We know not all members realise this. At the risk of overlabouring the point, therefore, the gap between our prices and the prices of the two competitors most used by our members is very wide, currently 10 to 15%. And that is before you take into account free delivery and no need to buy a particular volume, 6, 12, 24, before being able to access the discount. Our everyday low prices are astonishingly difficult to beat and rarely are. And we are seeing competitors continuing to raise prices this year, and we believe the gap between us and them is growing wider and our value is getting even better. And I can confirm that we decided at the June committee meeting just last week that we would do everything we could to continue to hold prices until the end of this financial year, except only for those wines which we would, if we were not to increase prices, have to sell at a loss, which will mean we will have held prices static on over 90% of our wines for 18 months, even in the face of the inflation and duty increases. We can't, of course, hold prices static forever, but we will ensure that we only raise them, if we have to, by as little as we can. And this, together with the wonderful range of wines for the 150th anniversary, makes us cautious but hopeful that we will have a successful 2024. In really challenging circumstances, therefore, the Society had a very good 2023. And at the heart of our business, of course, are our people. And our success and member satisfaction with the Society depends to an enormous degree on how you're treated by and the service you get from them. Each member of the Society's team played their part in our success. Every time I go to Stevenage, it's remarkable how vibrant the atmosphere is and how much everyone seems to be enjoying it, and that is down to every one of them. I wrote separately to all the staff expressing appreciation and thanks for what they've done over the year, but wanted to reiterate that today. Sadly, people do leave from time to time, and two of our wonderful buyers, Joe Locke and Marcel Orford-Williams, have decided that they will retire next year. Many of us have grown up with them as our constant companion, and our tastes have been shaped by theirs. We read their impeccably crafted and absolutely honest wine reports and buy accordingly. And the Society and every member owes them a deep debt of gratitude, and we are extremely sad that they have decided to go. Fortunately, the reputation of the Society means we are able to pick some fabulous replacements for them. And Harriet Kinnamonth and Fiona Hayes have already joined us, ensuring a long handover period so that they can properly get to know and be known by the relevant growers and producers. Congratulations also to Sarah Knowles, who is on maternity leave. And again, we are really lucky to have persuaded Victoria Mason to join us as cover for Sarah while she is away. And with Matthew Horsley and Freddie Bulmer having been developed and promoted internally, these are our first new external buyers for more than a decade. We welcome Fiona, Harriet and Victoria as we say goodbye to Joe and Marcel. The committee also regularly changes. Since 2021, when I became chair, by October this year, 5 members will have retired from the committee and 4 will have joined. In order to ensure we have the widest possible exposure to the membership, we regularly ask for applications from members who are interested in joining the committee. 2 years ago, in 2022, we had over 120 applications, and after a rigorous selection process, Jenny Farmer and Catherine Nunn joined the committee. We did the same exercise this year, and we had a similar number of applications, and from those, after an equally rigorous process, David Whiteman and Sam Day will be co-opted onto the committee as from July this year. David Whiteman has held senior commercial positions in a number of major organisations, and particularly as a leader in the HR function, and is currently a non-executive director for the Herefordshire and Worcestershire NHS. And Sam Day has also held senior executive positions in a number of organisations and is currently Chief Commercial Officer at the Direct Line Group. And from the existing committee, Ricard Giner Sariola very recently decided that he wants to retire from the committee in October. He has been on the committee for 11 years and has brought an inquisitive and searching mind and a penetrating intellectual insight to every deliberation, and all based on a set of values that in many ways are a template for the Society. He combines this with being engaging, fun, and deeply passionate about the Society. We will miss him. We live in an ever-changing environment. The Society, perhaps unlike other commercial organisations, really does want to be around in 150 years, still sourcing world-class wines for our members. With an outlook that doesn't focus on financial profit today, but looks to the continuing ability to source world-class wines for members, we want to ensure that our growers will still be producing extraordinary wines when we celebrate our 150th, our 300th anniversary. Our sustainability programme is a key part of that. It will, we believe, directly contribute to our ability to have excellent access to quality wines. And it will also save us and our growers and producers money. Environmental costs are an increasingly significant part of our and their businesses. I called the annual review Our Mutual Future, because although we're celebrating our 150th anniversary, it is important to realise that this is also just the beginning of the next 150 years, and we must ensure that society is properly prepared for that. The world is changing swiftly and dramatically, and it's hard to overemphasize the impact climate change, technology, and other issues will have on the wine world and those involved in bringing the wines from the grape to the glass. So we must ensure that society continually evolves to be able to source the very best wines at the best possible price and value, and offer exceptional service and a wonderful experience, and to keep up with and surpass the very best that anyone else can offer you. Our new strategy to take us into the beginning of the next 150 years aims to do just that. The society has always been different. We're a mutual. We're here not to maximise profit, but member satisfaction. So we approach every decision or choice very differently to a normal commercial organisation. We want to champion the joy of good wine for members, today and tomorrow. We believe in relationships and, of course, have members, not customers. We've always been at the forefront of what's happening in the wine world. We have the best buyers sourcing only what they believe in. We want your wine and your experience to be world-class and at the lowest possible prices. Lowest possible prices, the best service and broader wine horizons are precisely what we want to be known for. And they link directly to our history, values and mutuality. And it will always be a distinctive society offer, not a copy of what others may do. Over the next few years, therefore, we aim to update and enhance our fine wine offering and experience, creating a personalised service, enhancing en primeur first release and museum release offers and the fine wine collection, aging keeping stocks longer. We want to enhance our tastings and events programme, incorporating more education and learning for members. We want to put in place flexible and personalised wine subscriptions, enhancing the vintage cellar plan and wine without fuss, possibly creating a wine saving scheme. We want to enhance our reserves to get the best combination of personalisation, flexibility and lowest cost. Enhance our delivery offer, better information, communication and service, our own van fleet operating at optimal efficiency. Ensure our technology is such that we can offer an experience second to none. And continue to be a leader in sustainability, with our operations having a zero carbon footprint, responsible sourcing, different packaging options, helping our partners to adapt to climate change, and doing our best to ensure that our supply chain behaves responsibly. Obviously, there is a lot of detail behind each one of these goals, and we won't be able to do all of them immediately, but it's our aim to implement them over a period of 5 years by 2029. This strategy will, we believe, ensure we remain clearly differentiated from and ahead of the rest of the marketplace, ensure we remain that special organisation for wine lovers, and ensure we are the best possible place for members to source world-class wines with world-class service and a world-class experience, and at the lowest possible prices. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say as an introduction. I think now we move to any questions you may have, and let me explain how that will work. Those in the room who want to ask a question, please raise your hands, and we have a team with microphones across the hall who will come to you when I identify you. This is being recorded and will be available on the website for everyone to see, so please give your name and speak into the microphone so that your question is able to be heard. While a microphone is wending its way towards a member in the hall, I will take a question either from those we are receiving online or from those we have already received, and then I'll come back to that member to pose their question. Those online can put questions by following the instructions on the slide which appeared before the meeting and which is hopefully reappearing now. You may either type a question, and the team behind the scenes will transfer the question to my screen here, and will attempt to group any similar questions together, so you may not hear your exact question. Or you can ask to speak directly to the meeting by selecting the Request to Speak button on your screen, when you will be placed in a queue to ask the question directly to the meeting. Again, please give your name. This year, as last year, we've provided members with the ability to email questions in advance of the meeting. We received a number of questions which we're able to answer directly, and 25 questions which I've grouped into 15 categories, which we hope to be able to answer today. Whether we manage to get through all of those or not, I'm not sure. But if we don't, we will try and answer the questions we've not been able to ask after the AGM. And if you're unable to ask a question today because of time, please feel free to send a question in afterwards. So could I now ask for questions? There's a gentleman at the back, right at the back up there. And whilst you're wending the way, Steve, I'm going to turn to you. We have received a number of questions on our relationship with DHL. Sorry, if you could just wait till I've answered this one on DHL. The 3 questions are unhappy with the service they've got in particular, and I wanted you to talk to the members about our relationship with them.
Yeah. So thank you, Alan. So our relationship with DHL is now extended to 4 years. And during those 4 years, we've seen a consistent improvement in our on-time, in-full delivery success. So we measure it very carefully, and it's close to 99%, which is about as good as it gets in the online delivery industry. Now, that's all well and good, but of course, if it's your delivery and your wine that's affected, then of course we understand that that's very frustrating. But the advantage of working with one carrier is that we review regularly. We review failures. It might be a driver. It might be a particular delivery route. It might be the fact that there's a problem with trunking goods from Stevenage to the north. You know, lots of things happen, and we're very conscious that whilst we're pleased with close to 99%, that means that 1% and a bit of our deliveries don't make it on time. And when you go back to the volumes that Alan talked about, that is quite a lot of members. So we work very hard to see that consistent improvement. A number of members in their questions have asked us why we don't change. Changing won't stop the problems. In fact, actually, we're likely to go backwards because we won't have done the work with a new carrier that we've already done with DHL. We do review the market every year to see if there are better options. And to date, we're very happy with the choices that we've taken. But I do understand that when wine is left on a doorstep without a knock, when wine isn't left safe, when breakages occur and so on, that it's enormously difficult for members. And we're working really hard to try and make our performance better. 2 innovations that will come hopefully later this year are, number 1, the ability to be able to choose a morning delivery. And then secondly, to be able to choose a signed for delivery, which of course means that the driver has no choice but to knock on the door. So we are working at this, and I hope we'll do even better through the rest of this year.
Thank you, Steve. So the gentleman over there.
Yeah, just checking the microphone's on. Yeah. Good afternoon. This is my first time at an AGM, and I want to congratulate you. The organisation has been very good. My name is Keith Mosley. I have 2 questions, if I may. The first one is linked to what Steve was saying, which is that I've noticed that the Wine Society vans, the own drivers, it seems to be a reduction in the number of those. Is that a trend or not? And my second question, if I may, is that I ordered early this year, I think, some wine in plastic square flat pack bottles, which were very good for transport and sustainability. Is this going to be reintroduced or not? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So a good question on vans, but having said that, we have increased the number of vans. So we're able to, with our own fleet now, get to about 80% of postcodes, which we think is the maximum that is economic to get to. That doesn't mean that they're all on the road all of the time, because we have issues with drivers leaving, drivers with sickness and so on. But actually, we've got more routes this year than we've ever had. So, and our own vans outside peak are delivering about 30% of our volume. So we do have more, but having said that, we'll, you know, we always go back and look at what we can do better. I mean, one of the things with our own fleet that we're working on right now is a way to make the communication better, and also to try and provide a quicker service. So something we'll take seriously, and definitely something we'll keep in our sights. In terms of plastic bottles, the PET bottles, we launched them last year as a trial, and ever since then we've been trying to find a way to bring them to market at scale. and also at a bit of a profit, because the initial trial was actually loss-making, so that we could gauge demand. I'm pleased to say that we found that solution now, and whether it's this year or early next year, I'm not sure. But having said that, we'll definitely be offering more of them, as we have done with bag-in-box as well.
Steve, it is this year. Am I on? Hello. Good evening. It is this year. Yeah, we just secured the logistics. So this year you will see the rPET bottles being released in a few months.
More questions in the room? There's a gentleman down here, and whilst you're going towards him, Pierre, I'd like to turn to you. We've had a couple of questions on wine. One is about our low, no alcohol range, what we're doing about it, and the other is whether we can expand our spirit selection. So, Pierre.
Sure. Yeah, so the question specifically was about our intention to promote and make available low and non-alcoholic wine. It's very much on our radar. We currently list one, which is the Festillon from Gracian and Meyer. We would love to list more. We have got an additional one coming towards the end of this year, but frankly, the quality of non-alcoholic wine leaves a lot to be desired. As a result, we are not prepared to compromise our standards of quality. We're really, really excited about non-alcoholic drinks that are sort of botanical blends, kombucha, particularly those two styles which we expanded a few years ago that have been designed with wine drinkers in mind. So these are not non-alcoholic wines, but the experience is very much like drinking wine. They're not soft drinks. They're designed to sip and savour, and they're doing very, very well. Non-alcoholic beer quality is really good, and we successfully sell a couple of non-alcoholic beer lines, and in fact we are soon to introduce a society's non-alcoholic lager. But if any members here have had a good experience with non-alcoholic wine, Freddie is here this evening. He buys our non-alcoholic range, so please do give him any tips. But we are actively looking for something good that is wine and has had the alcohol removed. The second question was about spirits and expanding spirits. So we have quite a small range of spirits. That range is very much designed to have the kind of key styles of spirits, so triple sec, vermouth, creme de cassis, brandy, vodka, gin and whiskey. We've recently slightly extended our whiskey, brandy and gin range, but unfortunately some of the more kind of niche spirits, like tequila, for example, we trialled them, but there just is not enough interest amongst the membership at the moment. We are about to, although it's technically not a spirit, but is often considered a spirit, we are about to trial several sakes, because we're really impressed with the complexity of flavour that sake can craft, and we're going to see how those resonate with the members, with the membership. We've also had quite a bit of success with some premium pre-mixed cocktails, which we've just released some for summer. We've got more coming in over Christmas. But at the moment, spirits is a small part of what we do, and until members start buying more spirits at scale, at the moment we feel that the small range sort of justifies its place.
Yes, the gentleman over there who's waiting.
Oh, hi, evening. Just firstly, thank you. I'm like a massive fan, obviously, as a member of the society and a huge advocate for the work you do, and I've gifted a ton of your memberships to friends and stuff like that. It feels a little bit like the society is the best kept secret, certainly amongst my peer groups. I had a question actually just about, you mentioned about member life cycle earlier. Obviously you said it was a 3% membership growth and a 1% growth in sales, I think, if I was right from the opening remarks. are we doing enough to recruit members at the right stage of the life cycle to ensure that they keep buying with the society rather than sort of ending up drinking down their supplies?
This is something I think we talk about at every single committee meeting, how we ensure. At the moment we have an average membership age of 61, and 61 happens to be the exact time where membership purchases start to drop down, and all members reduce over time. So we would like not to suddenly make that 21, but we would certainly like to stop the age increasing, and we would like to gradually bring in younger new members. And yes, that is something we talk about. And Steve, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I think it's a very good question, and it's something that we've touched on with members in 1874 over the last 2 issues, I think. And actually, the average age of members joining the society is now much younger than the average. And we recognise the issue. What we're not planning to do is to have huge recruitment campaigns. Number one, they're expensive, and number two, we don't need to, on the basis that, as Alan says, we're not necessarily looking to reduce the average age, we're looking to keep the average age that we've got. And we would much prefer to recruit people in a quality way, so people that have a love of wine, people that are likely to stay. What we do know is that with these wonderful statistics that you can get these days, is that members who have made 3 purchases are likely to stay for more than 10 years. So it's a gradual evolution to a younger membership, but it's not excluding the people that we've already got. So it's quite a fine tightrope to walk.
Thank you. Gentleman down there. And whilst the microphone's coming towards you, can I ask Steve to talk about another issue which has had a number of, 2 questions, which is the number of emails we're sending out.
So this does come up a fair bit from members, and actually, before I go into what might sound defensive, yes, I agree. We have sent out too many emails over the last 18 months or so. And it's, there are various reasons why that's the case. So actually, from a context perspective, email is one of our biggest sources of traffic to the website. So actually, if we sent no emails out, then actually the business probably wouldn't be sustainable. It's so important to the sales profile of the society. The second element is, and if your inbox is anything like mine, then almost all emails I receive from other retail organisations come with a discount code, a voucher. We're slightly different to that. So all of you have a shareholding in the business, you're members. You have a love and a passion for wine, and we offer you the wines that the buyers have bought. So actually, on the one hand, we're probably over-enthusiastic about what it is that we do. But on the other hand, we're equally proud of the wines that the buyers have bought, and our emails carry nothing like the same psychological impact of a discount or money off. But that said, we are reducing at the moment. So last week we sent out 378,000 emails. Last year we sent out 650,000 emails. So, there's a noticeable difference. We have taken less money from email as a result. So, we're having to continue the process of getting better at our selections, the people that we send which email to. And we do use technology to help us to do all of that. So, we're right up there with the, best capable and enabled companies to do that. But I guess the corollary of all of that is, I think we'll always send out more than most. If we send out a first release email that a member buys, it's frequent enough and regular enough and relevant enough. If we send one out that they don't buy, then obviously it's less relevant and too much frequency. So it's a hard balance. It really is a hard balance, but I still receive more emails to me personally or phone calls complaining about things that members don't know about than members emailing about too many emails. And our member satisfaction is still very high. It's dropped, but our member satisfaction on email is still a significant majority say we have the right relevance and the right frequency. So we're working on it. One thing which is very important around this is we promised you a preference centre last year that was better than the one that we've got. That's been held up because we are currently going through a long process of upgrading our website to the next version of our platform. Once that has been implemented, then a new, more agile preference centre is following on right behind it.
Thanks, Steve. Gentleman over there.
Chairman, my name's Barry Shearman. I'm a long-time member and a very satisfied member of the Wine Society. I can't even grumble this year because I've had to come to the Barbican because I've just finished 45 years in Parliament and now I'm going to take my wine drinking even more seriously now that I've stood down from Parliament. But can I just make a couple of points? Last year, you remember I talked about Raymond Postgate and wine snobbery. It still exists. I think the Wine Society and the gentleman who spoke earlier is right. It's not just that we need more new members. We want to meet. I was on the train coming in with my young 19-year-old granddaughter who's studying medicine at St Andrews. And what do you think about the Wine Society? Well, it looks a bit stuffy and not for me and for older white men. And I said, well, what should we do about it? She said, why don't you use social media more? Why couldn't there be wine society clubs in every university? So she came up with some good ideas. But can I say her generation, many other people in this country, are really being exploited in paying for rotten wine, high premium prices. Go into your local pub, go into many restaurants, and you're paying, the people that buy the wine there with their meals are paying exorbitant markup prices, and surely we in the Wine Society should do something about it. Some of you might know I have a hashtag that, about the Sunday Times Wine Club for those people not bright enough to join the Wine Society. I think we've got some really good campaigning. In Blackheath, where my home is now, we have a whole circle, all of us belong to the Wine Society, and we meet and we chunter, and we do good stuff together. And I wonder if we could sort of build on that in other communities up and down the country. We only found we were Wine Society members by accident, but once you do find, it's a darn good basis of a good community. Thanks, everyone. Sorry to be patient, but I'm back to be a nuisance.
Thank you. And yes, you usually start your questions by saying, thank you for having it in the QE2, because I can just pop across the road. But now we're even nearer Blackheath, surely. Again, we are focusing on this more than we ever did before, and we are very aware of what we have to do. And we would love your granddaughter and others like her to be praising us through their universities. But Steve, why don't you take us through what we're doing to attract the younger members and the social media and what we're...
Yeah, I think, specifically, Barry, in terms of your question, we're taking a very good, long, hard look at our tastings and events. And some of what we've done this year is designed to appeal to a younger member. But actually, we've got a lot more opportunity than that. So, your principle of university wine clubs. But actually, it's not always just about young people either. There are many, many wine gatherings and wine clubs around the country generally. And we are considering what is our approach to supporting those, engaging with those better. And some of those will be young people, some of those will be older people. But we can also, we do tend to go to some fairly stuffy places with our events. And actually there are many contemporary venues. We recently did our exhibition in Manchester at the Lowry Hotel, which is a good modern contemporary venue, and it was fantastic. And actually the audience was very, very diverse as well. So I guess we hear you, and we're on it, and we'll find ways of stretching our reach, you know, way beyond what we're doing at the moment.
And I think I obviously going to the exhibition era weekends on the Saturday afternoons was a completely different set of members than might come there on a Monday evening or a Tuesday evening, and it was fantastic. And certainly in the London one, we had a young couple with a very, very young baby in a papoose round the neck who was getting his or her very first taste of the Wine Society tastings. I can't see any other hands up. Oh, sorry, right up there, sorry, there's a lady waving. So let's go to her, and then I'm going to ask Emily to talk about...
Hello?
Yes.
Right. Just to say, I think your marketing's really, really good. I think it's, as in the brochures that come out, I think you just do it so well. I look at loads of marketing. I'm a trustee for 2 small membership organisations, Lifelong Learning and Local Music Society, and to say as well that I think attracting a slightly younger member is the holy grail for all of us. It's not necessarily that you need, like, you know, your 20-odd-year-olds, but your 40-odds. That's who we're all after. And I was wondering whether you do specific prompts to current members to say, have you thought about giving the younger generation a gift membership? And forgive me if you already do this, because it's actually my husband who gets the emails. But
I think until very recently, our main acquisition was what we called member get member. And we would encourage every single member to get their children and grandchildren. And that was our main, and I think it probably still is our main source of new membership. And it's certainly some of our loyalist membership when we get member.
No, that's true. So member get member is fabulous for us, and you do a really lovely job on our behalf. But I think specifically in terms of targeting people more directly with a more direct message, no, we don't do that, and maybe we should.
Can I ask Emily, there's been a few questions in as to why we don't accept Amex as a form of payment, and indeed other forms of payment. So Emily, if you want to talk us through that.
Thank you, Alan. So we would love for members to be able to pay with their Amex or whichever card they choose. We've actually, specifically with Amex, been in discussions with them over several years. We've had 2 deals which we were really close to signing with them that were retracted at the last minute. We have another deal on the table at the moment that we're really hopeful gets through their committee, and we will be able then to offer members the option of using their Amex, hopefully later on this year, so do watch that space. We are conscious that we've been quite slow on modernising our payment options for members, and we're working on that. So we've got Apple Pay hopefully coming this year as well, and then looking at other things such as PayPal in the next few years. So do watch this space, because I'm conscious that we haven't got the options that members are after.
There is a lady right down on the front row who's had her hand up, and I apologise if I'm not seeing all of them. The light is quite bright, and I know there's quite a lot of people in the circle up there, and it's very difficult to see hands up. So if anyone has got their hand up there, if someone could come to the front and wave or do something. But...
Yeah, I've probably got 2 questions. First one is about corks. I noticed that you... Sorry, Corinna Edge is my name, sorry. Been a member since I was 21, so it's quite a few years. Anyway, it's about the corks. I noticed that you were now taking corks from members when they had wines delivered. But what happens, have you managed to get DHL to do that? No.
You said 2 questions. So...
Yeah, well, the second one is, we need to actually have more women members. Why is it we aren't getting enough women members?
Here. So, Pierre, do you want to talk about the corks?
Yeah, we have started a project in recycling corks, but I have to say I don't know the answer to the DHL element of it.
I'm afraid not at this stage, just purely based on the nature of their operation. It's just such a volume, straightforward push kind of operation, but never say never. and we obviously want to do as much as we can to improve our recycling credentials.
And I might use that for you to talk a little bit about packaging generally, because we've had a few questions on our cardboard boxes, the difficulty of taking them apart, difficulty of getting them back to us, and one on the markings on the outside. Do you want to?
Yeah. So in terms of, we had a question which was asking us about, are we going to bring back the ability to return cardboard on our own vans? The answer to that is no, not yet. And the reason for that is that curbside recycling is a really efficient option. And therefore, unless there's an advantage to bringing boxes back, and we don't reuse them, we've never reused them, because once a box has gone out, then actually a lot of its core fabric is destroyed. And where we've been trialling it, actually we've seen an increase in breakage, which is not what anybody wants to see. That said, if curbside recycling drops off for whatever reason, our councils haven't got the money to be able to do it, and if we're able to, secure some value that we can put into our sustainability pot for recycling it ourselves, then we may very well do so. Our own boxes are particularly strong, and I know lots of people don't like the construction of them. They are much easier to break down than you'd think, and each box has got a QR code on it, for those that use QR codes, that links to a video on our website, which you can find anyway on the website. It shows you exactly how to do it, and that's certainly what I use when I have to break my boxes down at home. But this is constantly under review, and what we're trying to find is the right box with the right construction, with the right sustainability credentials, so that ultimately we don't have to do that. And the other question that we had was about the font on the boxes. Does it make it a security risk? And I suppose the answer to that is yes, it does, if it's, this links to the DHL question to a degree, if it's left on a doorstep without a knock. But no, we've got no plans to make our boxes anonymous, as it's one of the best forms of advertising that we've got as a business.
Thanks, Steve. There's somebody right at the back, which I can't actually see.
Nigel Black, no relation. What is the impact in the change to a graded duty system? Have you seen any changes or expect any?
Well, it will be extremely difficult for the society and very, very expensive. Steve, do you want to take us through the...
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, everybody should know that the decision to put up wine duty last year has cost the Treasury hundreds of millions of pounds. Clearly, they were hoping that the take would go up. But having said that, for those that aren't aware, there is a new duty system coming into place in February next year, which is legislation, so it has been passed and it will happen. But currently, we're in an easement period. For very simple purposes, we move from 2 duty rates to 30 duty rates based on the amount of alcohol in a wine, which is measured in 0.5% increments. So first of all, it's horribly complex. Secondly, it's horribly expensive. It will cost us in the region of £400,000 to £500,000 of your money to implement this system. And even then, there is not a chance that any wine business in the UK will be compliant, because wine as an agricultural product is very difficult to predict, and a lot of our wine we buy even before it's bottled. We've got the crazy situation now where we'll have wines of the same vintage in the same year with different alcohol rates. We'll have wines, certainly in our reserves, going back many years with the same member, with the same wine, with vastly varying alcohol rates, and it's very ill thought through. So we've been part of I've been part of a lobby now over a number of years with government. I've never seen an issue in over 40 years in retailing where the industry is quite so aligned on something that the current government is unwilling to enter into meaningful conversations about. They have doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on this. Of course, we started engaging with the Labour Party, who are likely to make up the next government. And in fact, I'm having lunch on Monday with our new prospective Labour MP on exactly this topic. Wine, understandably, is nowhere near the top of their agenda, but what we want them to do is, in their first budget, to extend the current easement so that we can work with them or any new government on a better solution than this complex and, frankly, idiotic legislation.
Thanks, Steve. There are two people over here, and then if we could get a microphone down here to the first. Oh, you've got one there. Thank you. Yeah.
Justin Phillips. I wanted just to. I was one of those that mourned the loss of the outpost in Montreuil, though I did understand the reason for it. But following on pretty smartly from the question we've just had, I'm not an accountant. I don't know if we bought a £10 bottle of wine here, exactly how much of that is tax. But I can tell you this, when we're in France, I go to the place, a local supermarket near me, and I get a very drinkable, unbelievably drinkable bottle of Languedoc wine for less than €3. It has now crept up above there, just above there. But I mean, if we could find, there's many cleverer people than me, can find a way of having an outpost in France, not maybe a sort of deluxe version like that, and I must say the choice there was rather limited. But if we can find a way of doing it, perhaps joining up or having some relationship with some other business there to keep the overheads low, I, for one, would be extremely grateful.
Thank you. We closed the French outlet before Steve joined us, and we did it because when it was going, we sort of washed our face just, and then the hotel Hermitage asked us for a new lease, which was at 3 times, which is market value to be fair, but 3 times what we were paying, and our partner there decided she wanted a living wage and not doing it for the passion, and it became completely unprofitable. But more importantly, a staggeringly small number of members actually used it. It was one of those points that a lot of people thought it was a good idea, but very, very few used it. Now, since Steve joined, you've looked at it a few times on the finances, and it just hasn't yet worked out in terms of numbers which will use it. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that we've looked at it from the perspective that we're actively looking for retail outlets, but I do get approached quite a lot from people in the north of France, particularly, who want to welcome us into their retail space. So it's very unlikely that we would take out a sole shop lease. But having said that, the economics of it are nowhere near working, I'm afraid, and it's not an exercise that we think we should do at a loss, because those members who don't use the facility would feel quite strongly about that level of subsidy. So we'll keep looking if opportunities come up. But having said that, we're not at this stage looking to become a retailer. And I'm sad about that, because I've spent most of my career running stores for companies like Gap, Marks & Spencer and Clarks. And I love retailing, but sadly, we just can't make it work.
Gentleman over there.
Thank you. My name is Charles Dunn. First of all, I congratulate the Wine Society on your sustainability initiative, which is going to be a tremendous project going forwards, and I suspect will just grow and grow and grow. On the subject of alternative packaging for your products, it's good to see that you are experimenting with different options. What criteria do you use when you decide which of the new products out there you would choose to use or to trial? would it be a lower carbon footprint, or it's recycled, or what?
All of the above. So Dom DeVille, who runs our sustainability programme, is working with an organisation that are really accurate at identifying all of the characteristics around all of the different types of packaging. And you'd be surprised, actually, if you look at it in that way, how things like plastic, which people feel would be bad for the environment, are actually very, very good. You know, which is why we've introduced the PET bottles and hoping to roll out at scale. So we look at it in a very, very holistic way, which is about recycling, which is about carbon used in the manufacture, carbon used in the journey to members, and the weight of the bottles and so on. So it's quite a rigorous process, and one that you know, we're happy is independently audited to make sure that we're doing the right things.
Can I add one that we've received online about sustainability report, which is the sustainability from Mr. Ian Fuge. The sustainability report rightly is issued as a digital document. Why then are it and the annual report in a format that's so difficult to read on a screen, especially on a mobile device?
Yeah, I saw this question on my screen, and actually I can't answer it on the basis that I don't experience that, and we are using a really you know, well-renowned expert in the space to make sure that we're using the right technology. So I will take that away, and I will have a look at it immediately that I'm back in the office with my marketing team, and we'll review it thoroughly.
There's a gentleman over there in the row down here, but in the meantime I'd like to ask Pierre a couple of questions, one on here and one that's come in before, which is, why is the wine tasting free for those attending the meeting in person, but incurs a 25% charge for samples for those attending remotely? I accept you might need a carriage charge, but surely not a charge for the wines themselves.
Yeah, so we thought long and hard about this, and actually what we've aimed to do is just to have a level playing field. So yes, we do charge £25 for samples of the wines, and those samples that we send are sort of tasting measures that serve 2 people, and we think that's a level playing field, one, because we offer a discount. It's a discounted price on the equivalent wine. And of course, if you're coming here to the AGM, as a member bringing a guest, we do charge a fee for you to bring a guest. So that's currently what we do, and it seems very popular. I think we sold out of all of the samples very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think it's, look, I think it's a very good question. I'm not going to address that directly, as Pierre's done it already, but it is one of our ambitions to try and find a much more cost-effective way to have samples at scale. You know, it's an obvious thing to say, and it's certainly true, for example, with our Generation series. Members that taste, buy. And therefore, the more that we can get wines, whether it's for an AGM event like this, or whether it's, frankly, just things that we're proud of, put in boxes for members to try, you know, it remains a very key objective for us.
The gentleman over there.
Good evening, Martin Melville. I've been a member for about 55 years, I think. My question is about mobile apps. Several years ago, you discontinued using the app to concentrate on the website. And at the time, I agreed with that. But over the last, I don't know, 8 years, my laptop's become almost redundant, i.e. your website's almost redundant. Are you re-looking at this problem?
Steve?
No, we're not at the moment. We've got lots of other things that we're working on, including a very good mobile optimised website. And I do think that over the next few years, apps will start to drop away and mobile optimised sites will get more powerful, better, quicker, and more able to serve you better. So I do understand and I do appreciate that members would like an app, but do give our mobile site a go. It's already pretty good. It'll be even better after the latest upgrade that we put in, and over the next few years its capability will go beyond the applications from the apps. But what I'd also say is that you know, it's very inefficient for an organisation to have both. You know, the thing with apps is you've got to make them compatible with every technology. You've got to upgrade them in line with everybody. You know, when I say that, Android, Apple, Windows, you know, and a lot of the other applications. So they're very expensive to own. They're difficult to upgrade, and what you often find is that they very soon start to fall behind after they've been implemented. So our previous app was brilliant when we launched it 10 years ago, but by the time that we came to eliminate it was just very cumbersome to keep on upgrading. So we're focusing our efforts on our mobile site. We'll optimise that. We'll optimise our desktop site. But I know that won't please everybody.
There's a question from the circle.
My name's John Bridcut. I'm afraid I arrived late, so this may be a redundant question in terms of what you had already. First of all, I just want to say I think the 150th anniversary wine's been absolutely terrific and really good. I just wondered, if they say they're out of stock, does that mean that's it? Or have you got any more coming in? And the second question is...
Two questions.
I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I can't raise the agenda on the internet in here. I'm on the Barbican free Wi-Fi, but it doesn't seem to allow access to the internet. And it's a pity that the agenda isn't actually up on the screen, given that I think the communications in here, the phone signal is virtually nil. And so therefore I haven't got an agenda.
Thank you. The agenda is remarkably simple for the AGM. There's the chair address, and there are 4 things we talk about: the adoption of the accounts, co-opted member, election of members, and then the committee remuneration. It's a very simple agenda. The questions are always prior to the agenda, the formal resolutions. So I'll take you through the agenda when we get there. As for the anniversary wines.
So on the anniversary wines, we've done 2 ranges, the Generation Series and the Anniversary wines. They are one-off wines, and so when they're gone, they're gone. You might see, though, on a handful of them, if on the website that it says due in, that means we are getting more, because some of the wines we bought in volumes where we don't ship the whole volume in one go. There are bottles still at the wineries, but if it says out of stock, it's out of stock.
Thank you.
Right at the back, sorry, yes.
The Christmas survival pack, because I think you always have gin, but could we have sometimes vodka in there as well? And sometimes this last year, I didn't think much of your port. It wasn't very good. And the same as last year's port, but wasn't absolutely up to scratch either. But normally you have very good sort of selection for the Christmas Survivor Pack. It's a wonderful idea. And are you going to sort of put vodka in it some stage or other, or are you going to always leave gin in it?
Are we going to put...
So I think you're referring, the Christmas Survival Pack is a mixed case. So the exact details I can't remember off the top of my head. Obviously, we don't have a vodka in there. Those mixed cases are designed to appeal to as many members as possible. We'll certainly have a look as to whether we could include a vodka in there. But I'm more disturbed by your comment about our port. I hope that some of the ports we've brought in this year, in fact, under the Generation Series and the 150th Anniversary Series, hopefully will meet your expectations and over-deliver. There's one tonight, yes. We've got the anniversary port this evening, so you can give that a try.
I can't see Is there another? I'm tempted to draw the questions to a close. We started a little late, but obviously the tasting starts at one. There. Okay. Thank you. If we could get a microphone down. And I think I'd like to make that the last question so that we can then move to the resolutions. Let Pierre talk to us about the wines for this evening.
Thank you, Sheila Page. I wanted to ask about the initiative you had at the end of last year of offering wines to Noble Rot, whether you have kept track of how many new members you've had as a result of that, and also whether you can commit not to selling off bin ends in the future before they've been offered to members. Thank you.
Just for everyone to ensure that you know what the Noble Rot arrangement was, as we've talked about, we need constantly to have a pipeline of new members. We don't market to non-members, and even if we were to, we don't have the deep pockets that would enable us to compete with those spending millions or tens of millions to acquire new members. So we do what we think is probably better arrangements to bring ourselves to the attention of prospective new members. And the Noble Rot partnership was one that we started this last year. And why don't I ask Steve to tell us a little bit about the details and how we've benefited from it and what we've done.
Yeah, so Noble Rot, restaurant chain in London, who have 3 restaurants, and we worked with them to create a wine society list. And rather than use money as part of that partnership, we used wine with the intention that we could use their demographic to get the wine society noticed by more of the demographic that we're aiming for. And relevant to the lady earlier, it's not very young people, it's certainly in that sort of 35 to 54 demographic. It's been really good. We've had a lot of column inches as a result of it. Actually, interestingly, a lot of the journalists have said directly that if we were going to choose a partner to do something like this, then we couldn't have chosen a partner like Noble Rot. They share our passion for wine. They sell their wine on their wine list at very good value. And it's worked pretty well. From a membership perspective, we don't attribute members directly to the source of where they came from. So what we have is really the anecdotal feedback from the Noble Rot team. All of their sommeliers are now members, and they look out for and operate on our behalf for their diners who aren't currently members. And in their words, the majority of diners in the restaurants who aren't members have committed to becoming members. I don't know whether they have or whether they haven't, but what I do know is that our membership is well up this year, and so we're happy with what we're doing. We think it's a good to use wine sometimes to market the society, and the vast majority of these wines have been on sale to members in the past.
Sorry, somebody, yes. Can we get a microphone down here to...
I'm really sorry to want to eat, have my meal and eat my, whatever it was. My mother used to say, eat your pudding and eat it too. I'm worried about something now. On the agenda, I love this society. You phone up the society and the most wonderful people with a calming voice lead you through whatever query you've got. And I think that we ought to, at every annual meeting, say what a brilliant team we have, the people that Dave and others that deliver, the people that answer the phone. And I would like in future to see some reference to the conditions, whether we retain our staff, whether they're fairly paid. Just that little bit more attention for a group of people that make most of the people here very happy indeed. Thank you.
course.
Thank you, Barry. And we always try to showcase our staff. They're a brilliant team, doing brilliant things. And but one of the things we do internally is we have regular, what we call pulse surveys. So not just one a year, but actually regular ones that talk to how our staff, are feeling about their employment. Are we doing a good job as employers? And, I'm pleased to say that that scores highly. It doesn't uniquely score highly with everybody that works at the Society. But having said that, it's a great means, as well as, frankly, we're not a big business. So, we're very visible as an executive team. And actually, our people come up with much better ideas about the business and about working conditions than I do. So I can give you some assurance that I think we're a pretty good employer. But having said that, we may do a bit of an inside look in one of our future 1874s.
Thank you. So I'm going to draw the questions to a close now and come to the formal resolutions. But before moving to the resolutions, I'm sorry for how long this might take, but it's a bit complex. I want to give some background to one of them at this stage, rather than wait until the resolution itself, in case anyone has any questions on it. And that is the complex structure of part of the committee's remuneration and our proposal to simplify it. Over the past 3 years, we've carried out a number of reviews of the Society and its governance. And over this past year, we reviewed how the committee carries out its role and also looked at its remuneration structure. So first, the committee and the committee meetings. Under the rules, we are responsible for directing the business of the Society. So we looked, therefore, at whether our existing meeting structure allowed us to do that effectively. And we concluded, perhaps surprisingly, that we should increase the length of time we spend in meetings. We previously met 11 times a year, every month except August, with 9 meetings of 2.5 hours and 2 meetings of 6 hours, so 34.5 hours. As from February this year, the beginning of the financial year, we still have 11 meetings, but now we have 8 meetings of 4 hours beginning at 4 p.m. and 2 of 6 hours starting at 2 p.m. And in January, a shorter online meeting to go through end-of-year issues. So a total of 45 hours, roughly a 30% increase in meeting time. And it's already clear, in fact, Steve has said this a number of times, that this enables us to have a significantly richer discussion on what are becoming more and more complex business issues. As well as committee meetings, there are 2 subcommittees, Finance and Risk and People, meeting in total 7 times a year, and also 3 other without paper meetings over supper, which we now use as proper committee meetings. So 21 possible meetings a year. And of course, they're only part of what the committee does. The reading and preparation time certainly takes me much longer than the meetings themselves. We are available as a sounding board, offer assistance to members of the executive team. We attend tastings and other member gatherings, and other general things that the committee members seem to be asked to do. Now, the structure of our remuneration, it's not the quantum, it's the structure. Pursuant to Rule 40, committee members, other than the Chief Executive, who receives no fee for serving on the committee, are paid the fees from time to time decided in this general meeting. The Chair and the Deputy Chair receive a fixed amount. However, the fee structure for the other committee members who do not receive a fixed amount is complex and opaque, and even for committee members, difficult to comprehend. So under the current system, the elected members, not the co-opted members, other than the Chair and Deputy Chair, receive a share of an amount decided by the AGM, which is shared between them based on their individual attendances at committee and subcommittee meetings. The amount is divided by the maximum possible number of meeting attendances of all those elected members at all committee and subcommittee meetings, other than the 3 without paper meetings. And those elected members receive that amount of money for every meeting they attend, with anyone chairing a subcommittee receiving twice that amount to reflect the extra work involved. If anyone doesn't attend a meeting, they don't receive the relevant amount. Co-opted members receive a fee at exactly the same rate per meeting attended as the elected members, and those fees are in addition to the amount shared among elected members. So it's impossible to calculate what those committee members receive for any year until after the end of the year, since the individual aggregate meeting attendances are not ascertained until then. And so the committee members don't know what they'll be getting until they see what comes at the end of the year. It's also worth noting that although they're based on individual attendances, the fees are also dependent on other meetings. So if someone retires, the other committee members get more, less people at meetings. If someone joins the committee, they get less, more people at the meetings. And of course, the more elected members, the more meetings there are, the less they get per meeting. So apart from the complexities and rather random consequences of the system, it doesn't seem to us, looking at the range of what committee members now do, appropriate that attendance at committee meeting should be the only determiner of a member's fees. It doesn't seem right that someone receives less because they happen to be unwell on the day of a meeting. And if that happens, they've usually given me all their comments in the paper so that I can relay them to the meeting. And I think, not more importantly, but as importantly, it's also impossible to give you, the members, a simple explanation of what the committee members receive. And we know that that can lead to a degree of distrust when a member asks what we receive and we can't give a simple figure, rather than the long and complicated explanation like I've just done. So we believe that fixed fees, reflecting different roles, are a more sensible and appropriate basis for committee fees. That's what the chair gets, that's what the deputy chair gets. And of course, they're more in line with the rest of the society staff as well. So we would propose that committee members, other than the chair and deputy chair, receive a fixed fee for being on the committee, a further amount for each subcommittee on which they serve, and a further amount if they chair a subcommittee. In terms of amount, it's been the practice in recent years to increase committee fees in line with the increase awarded to staff in the annual pay review. And for this year, that would be 5%. So we've based our recommended fees on a 5% increase applied to the amounts earned by committee members who attended all the appropriate meetings last year, with a very little rounding down up to deal with the appropriate gaps between the roles. So if we were to apply the 5% increase to the amount earned last year by a committee member who's not on a subcommittee, by someone who is on the Finance and Risk Subcommittee and someone who chairs the Finance and Risk Subcommittee, they would this year earn slightly under or over, now that Rickard has decided to retire in October, 7,500, 10,000 and 12,500 respectively. And I think the fact that Rickard retiring means they all earn a little bit more demonstrates the quirks of the existing system. It seems to us the £2,500 gap between each of the roles seems appropriate, considering the extra work involved. And so we are recommending those figures as the correct fixed fees to be earned this financial year by committee members, other than the chair and the deputy chair. The chair and the deputy chair already receive fixed fees, and a similar 5% increase, rounded to begin the new structure, would be 22,300 for the deputy and 44,600 for the chair. And the 22,300 is £8.50 over the exact number, but to get to that rounded start process. So for the financial year that we're now in, we would propose that each committee member, whether elected or co-opted, because they all earn the same, other than the deputy chair, the chair and the chief executive, would receive a fee of £7,500, increased by £2,500 for each subcommittee in which they serve, and a further £2,500 for each subcommittee they chair. The deputy chair would receive 22,300, and the chair would receive 44,600. And I apologise for that being such a lengthy explanation, but I wanted to be completely transparent and explain why we think a change in the fee structure, but based on the same quantum as before, is appropriate. And I'd be happy to take any questions on that now, or if there are none, move directly to resolutions. But I wanted people to have a chance to hear that and ask questions if thought appropriate. Gentleman down here. Microphone coming on your right.
Thank you. Just a very simple, quick question. Philip McGarvey, been a member for nearly 40 years. What you've just suggested sounds admirable, but would there be a limit to how many subcommittees any committee member could serve on?
So at the moment we only have two subcommittees. We had the Finance and Risk Subcommittee and the People Subcommittee. When I joined the committee, there were more. We have absolutely no plans to have more than those two. And the only person who is on both of those subcommittees is me. I'm on all the subcommittees. So there is no elected or co-opted committee member, both on the on the People Subcommittee and the Finance and Risk Subcommittee. And so we don't plan to have a limit. It's just that in practice there will be a limit. We don't tend to overlap the committees. It's too much work because the committees plus the committee meetings are 18 times a year, starting at 4, and the subcommittees often start before the committee meetings, so people are getting there from 1 and 2 to start those. So it's every elected member of the committee, except for me, is working full-time. So for them, it's taking a half day off work. It's either a holiday, or it's paid, they buy a holiday, or they come to an arrangement with their employer that they can do it, which is there. So I don't think there's any risk of us deliberately putting people on subcommittees just to get that extra £2,500. Sorry, gentleman down there, yes.
Thank you. Matthew Searle, I've been a member for 25 years. The fee levels you're talking about, is there out-of-pocket expenses on top of that, or is that fee expected to cover all of the committee members' costs?
No, excuse me, expenses are on top of that. The expenses getting to Stevenage will be, I suppose, a rail journey or whatever, but yes, they're on top of that. As I say, those are the existing fee levels. There's no change other than rounding what I thought would be slightly up, but probably slightly down this year to get to those fixed fees. I can't tell you exactly what committee members have as expenditure over a year. I don't know if you, but it won't be, it's not a dramatic account. But no, those fees are simply the fees for being on the committee and doing the work. Gentleman over there.
Thank you. Tom Lee. Could I just ask you, is there an explicit or implicit expectation of each member attending a certain number of committee meetings, or is that just assumed that people will attend every time unless?
We expect everyone to attend all the meetings they're due to go, and we put on the website for 14 days, I think, the attendances of committee members at meetings, and some do that and some, of course, don't. I mean, there is always going to be the case where people don't, but yes, they're expected to attend every meeting. They are in-person meetings in Stevenage or London, depending on where we have them. On occasion, if someone is just somewhere else, we have them online as well so that they can attend. And I think it's my responsibility that if anyone is actually not putting their weight, that's simply not coming or not doing the work, then that's my responsibility to sort them out, not... I don't think the way to get them there is to pay them another couple of £100 to get to the committee meeting. Sorry, yes.
Chairman, are you working? Chairman John Randall. I'm one of those boring people who, for every little investment that I have in a company, I dutifully go through and vote all the AGM requirements, including the salaries of the members of the board. From that experience, what you have put forward seems to me to be entirely sensible, both in terms of structure and quantum, and I hope we can just move to approve it.
Thank you very much. So, excellent. So let's move to the agenda items, and I can deal with the gentleman there. And I'm sorry we are a bit late. We did start a little late. Voting will take place in the room by members using the devices they were given as they registered. They're a bit fiddly, but if you want to vote in favour of a proposal, please press the number 1. And if you want to vote against, please press the number 2. Please don't say it should be 1 and 9. We know that, but it's 1 and 2 is what they've given us. Behind me on the screen is a picture to show where those keys are. And if you think you've not voted the way you intended, just simply go back to hitting the 1 or the 2. Those online can vote following the instructions on your screen. So I'll ask you to vote on the resolution, and then I'll allow a few moments for the votes to all register. And in theory, I see on my screen what those votes are. So the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the accounts. Members are asked to adopt the accounts for last year, and I would be grateful if you could indicate whether you are happy to do so. Please now vote. Thank you. The time for voting has now I'm just looking at the votes coming in. The time for voting is now ended, and I can declare that the accounts have been adopted by 548 votes for and 4 against. The second item is the co-option of Catherine Nunn. Under Rule 27, the committee co-opts members onto the committee subject to confirmation of those appointments at the next AGM. Catherine was first co-opted onto the committee in January 2023 for a term of 1 year, and her co-option was renewed in January this year until February next year. Catherine was the Chief Executive and is now the Deputy Chair of Lakeland, the kitchenware specialist retailer, has a career of over 25 years in retail, and she brings a wealth of experience to the committee. So could I ask you to confirm Catherine's co-option? Please now vote. Thank you. The time for voting has now ended, and the meeting has confirmed Catherine Nunn's co-option by 552 votes for and 9 against. The third item is the re-election of Eleanor de Canter, the Deputy Chair, and me, Alan Black. Eleanor de Canter, having first been co-opted, was then elected onto the committee in 2019 and became Deputy Chair in 2021. As well as Deputy Chair, Eleanor also chairs the People Subcommittee. Her background is in digital innovation. She is retiring by rotation and is standing for re-election. And I was first co-opted also and was then elected onto the committee in 2014 and of course became chair in 2021. As well as chairing the committee in the society, I sit on both the People and the Finance and Risk subcommittees. I am or was a lawyer and spent my career in one of the large international law firms, and I'm retiring by rotation and standing for re-election. And no other member standing as an elected member, I'm delighted to confirm Eleanor and my election. And finally, committee remuneration. So following the discussion earlier in the meeting, the proposal is that for the financial year starting in February 2024, each committee member, whether elected or co-opted, other than the Deputy Chair, the Chair and the Chief Executive, would receive a fee of £7,500, increased by £2,500 for each subcommittee in which they serve, and a further £2,500 for each subcommittee they chair. The Deputy Chair would receive £22,300 and the Chair would receive £44,600. And I'd be grateful if you could now indicate whether you are happy to approve this simplified and we believe more appropriate structure. Please now vote. The time for voting has now ended, and I can confirm the proposal is carried by 552 votes in favour and 14 against. That concludes the business of the 150th Annual General Meeting of the Wine Society, and I would like to thank everyone for their attendance at this very special occasion and wish you all a wonderful tasting, and I declare the meeting closed. And I would... Thank you. And I'm going to ask Pierre to say a few words about the wines before we go to the tasting.
Thank you, Alan. Everyone relax. The tasting hasn't started yet. I'm going to keep you here for 5 more minutes. I'm going to introduce the tasting, but just before I do, I would like to take a few minutes to update you on some of the things that are happening in the wine world from the Society's perspective. And actually, this year what I've decided to do is really focus on the human side of wine. It's of course right that lots of the narrative around wine describes the importance of climate, soil and vineyard, or terroir, but an often understated element is the impact of people on wine, whether it's a vineyard or winemaking decision, or more broadly, the philosophical vision of the owning producer. These choices directly influence style, quality, pricing, and many other aspects that contribute to the success of one wine over another. As an importer of wine, we really believe it's also important to better understand the impact wine production has on people. So we started a project this year which focuses on human rights in our supply chain, and we're doing that so members can feel safe in the knowledge that our wines are being produced in a way that is fair to everyone involved in making it. Sticking with the theme of people, my lasting memory and memories of the year so far have been the experiences of the 150th exhibition Weekenders that have been located across the UK. These have brought together thousands of wine-loving members with dozens of producers and many of our staff. And attending these events, experiencing the conversation, the joy and connection with and between members has been something quite special for me and the buyers. Moving from people to climate change, because this continues to be by far the most significant factor that is shaping the wine industry. Over the past 12 months, we've worked really hard to give something back to our growers to help them in the face of these challenges. We organised a series of climate adaptation webinars, which had over 80 of our growers and producers attend from countries such as Italy, France, South Africa, Hungary, and the UK. They were really positively received, and we therefore intend to continue with these webinars. Probably more exciting is the launch of our Climate and Nature programme. This actually is us investing in nature-based projects in our growers' vineyards. And these projects are projects that will help remove carbon, boost biodiversity, and improve vineyard resilience. The response from our producers has been phenomenal, with applications coming from multiple regions and countries. And I'm just going to read out a quote from one of the applications that came from one of our growers in South Africa. I have a 35-hectare farm, which has been developed over the past 24 years on a limited budget. And I've been on a dedicated journey to get organic and biodynamic certification since 2018. Any contribution from the Wine Society would be incredibly motivating. The offer from the Wine Society as such is quite incredible to me. And even if I am not a fortunate recipient, I sincerely applaud your attempt to specifically help producers with something genuinely important that cannot necessarily be monetized. It is what is lacking in contemporary farming. We've had around 35 applications. We're working through them at the moment, and we will, once we've concluded on the successful applicants, be announcing those to members in the coming months. Closer to home, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognise the important changes within the buying team. As Alan has mentioned, two of our most experienced buyers retire this year, Joe and Marcel. Almost certainly every member will have drunk and enjoyed a wine bought by Marcel and Joe. So it's not surprising we've received dozens of messages from members and suppliers about this news. Joe's work in South Africa has culminated in it becoming the biggest growth region from the Southern Hemisphere. Marcel's tireless effort in the Rhone has grown the range, which has encouraged members to double their purchases. Southern France, Loire, Portugal, Germany, Champagne and Bordeaux have all benefited from their attention. On a personal note, I'd like to thank both of you. I can see Joe here. I can't see where Marcel is, over there. I'd like to thank both of you for not just bringing a wealth of experience, but also a contagious passion for your work. Your knowledge and expertise within your wine regions has of course been invaluable to Wine Society members, but I for one have learned loads from you. We'll miss you both. We'll miss your own unique way of doing things, and very much wish you the best as you embark on this new chapter. Yeah. This means we welcome some new buyers to the team: Fiona, Harriet and Victoria. All have a very deep knowledge of wine, a strong experience in developing really positive, thriving relationships with suppliers, and a broad set of commercial buying experience. The three of them are here this evening as well, along with the rest of the buyers, so they will be circulating around the tasting in a moment. The commercial side of wine buying has a significant impact on the financials of the Wine Society, in particular from a stock perspective. And this year we completed a project which has modernised our approach to stock, range and pricing with the introduction of new ways of working and a restructure of the merchandising team. What it means is we'll be able to be more efficient in how we range and ship wine, but we won't be compromising on the breadth and depth of wines that we offer. I think this is going to take the buying department to the next level, where merchandiser partners with buyer, merchandisers serving and providing insight, data and analysis to help the buyer make informed decisions, and importantly, free the buyer to do what they do best, which is being creative. And what this will mean for members is that our wine range will become even sharper. And one particular project that we've just kicked off actually around the range, is on fine wine. And this evening in the tasting, I think it's on the lower ground floor tasting, there's some fine wine questionnaires, just 5 or 6 questions. Do get a chance to please put down your thoughts, because we're trying to get as much insight from members about what they would like the Wine Society to do more of in the fine wine space. So now to the moment that we've all been waiting for, tonight's tasting. Of course, at the 150th AGM, we will be celebrating the wines that we have purposefully selected for this year, the Generation Series and Anniversary range. These are wines that the buyers have been working on with a select group of wine producers to create something really extra special that over-delivers on taste. There are 12 wines on show tonight. They come from all over the world, and they shine a light on classics like Bordeaux, Rioja, the Rhone, alongside Argentina, Australia and Portugal. All the wines being tasted this evening, this is some good news, will be available to purchase with a 10% discount from 7 days, for the next 7 days. Before I let you go, a couple of practical things. So for those of you online, the virtual tasting will start shortly. Those of you here this evening, we think this might be one of the largest ever single session tastings put on by the Wine Society. There's a lot of you here this evening, over 500.
600 and, I think 660 something.
600?
Because there's 165 guests in total. So 600,
right, yes.
668.
So I think we've broken the record.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've conducted the tasting over 2 levels here at the Barbican. The same wines on both levels. So as you leave the hall, guests who exit from doors 1 and 2, over there on the left, you will be guided to commence the tasting on the lower ground floor. Guests exiting 3 and 4 doors, you'll be guided upstairs to the ground floor, which is exactly where you up at the stalls will also be, up on the ground floor. You will be served a glass of bubbly. Once you've drunk that bubbly, keep that glass. It's your glass for the duration of the tasting. You're free to taste in whichever order you wish. Before you go, if you could leave your voting devices on the chair. And that's it, actually. I don't think you need any encouragement.
I think you can wander from floor to floor.
You can also wander from floor to floor,
Yeah,
but
you're not stuck in the
have a fantastic tasting, and thank you for coming. Good, lots of operation.
You were ready.